I screwed up, no surprise there. um, so the the exam involves one exercise that I actually shouldn't have included because we're working on that stuff now. The content of that exercise is content that covers concepts and skills we're working on now. So what I'm going to do is just manually go into your exam score and just effectively zero out that exercise by giving you the full points for the score, and I'll pull the exercise into the correct exam. And then the other thing that I did that was kind of a Mia special was I was not paying attention. I think that's what had to have happened. Can't account for it. I mean, I guess I could account for it another way, but I'll account for it by not paying attention. There was an exercise, there are two exercises involving first validity and then second soundness. And I flipped them. So I fixed that. If you have any questions, problems, confusions about that, let me know. That's kind of important. So specifically, it was the exercise involving Woodland Hills and California and the U.S.
Is it also the knight and knaves one?
Say again, Hannah?
The one with about the knights and the knaves?
Hold on, let me look. Hang on just a sec. Oh, I see what I've done. Let me check. Let me look at the exercise.
Or I could be mistaken.
I didn't think that one. Oh no, I'm wrong. Okay. Yeah. So no, it was actually it was exercise 2, which consists of a set of assessments of statements that and then also so here's the problem. It includes some stuff we did study, but also some stuff that we haven't studied. And so when I was pulling the exercises, I wasn't paying proper attention. So that's if I don't think the questions were shuffled. I think they're in order. So that would be question 2. Are you looking there now?
Oh no, I just remembered from the.
Yeah, the knights and knaves one is I mean, historically I find the liar puzzle to be really difficult, but there's a nice way to be able to work through it. So I've fixed that stuff, but I have not yet given you back the points for the exercise that involves. It's a set really that involves multiple exercises, some of which we haven't covered yet. Do you have any questions, problems, confusions that you want to go over? Don't be shy about telling me either now or obviously if you want to meet outside of class, whether it's during office hours or outside of office hours, just let me know. Okay. So I apologize for the goof up. You can kind of always count on me to do something silly, and it's really important that if something ever looks wonky to you, please let me know, because I'd rather it be the case that I say, oh, no, everything's in order. Here's what's going on. Let me explain. And then, the confusion is cleared up. If though there's some mistake that I've made, I've clicked the wrong button for a setting or something like that. I mean, I really need for you to tell me. It's not that I want you to do my work for me, although that would be nice. But I don't want my errors to mess you up. So please don't be shy about that. I don't know if you still say I'm here for that, but I'm definitely here for that. Okay, so let me do this. When we were working last week, I was using the draw feature in Word. And it's nifty that they have it now, or that I can use it on my computer. But the not nifty part is that it requires me to use my mouse, my trackpad, and I'm not particularly good at that. So what I'm going to do is work allowing me to write with a pencil. And so what I'd like us to do is this. Tell me if I am correct that you see hold on, I don't want speaker view, I want gallery view. Oh, I see, that is gallery view effectively. Okay. I just want to make sure I get everybody in the page or in on the screen, so that I can see if you have if you raise your hand or you use the chat feature or whatever. Can everybody see the whiteboard?
Yes.
Yay! Okay. So let us do this. Let's do a little bit of stock taking. So we understand, so I'll just make this note. So what we know. And this is not in any particular order. And by that, I mean, it doesn't follow the order of the textbook concepts. But that doesn't mean that one or the other is the better approach. I'm just thinking about building a little bit in a specific way. So we know what an argument is. We know that an argument consists of statements or sentences that are true or false. True or false sentences. We also know that we've got the supporting element or elements in the argument. We call these the premises, or if there's just one, the premise. And we know that the job of the premise or premises is to support the conclusion. Then what we started out by talking about is a very specific notion, a very technical or specific concept, the concept of entailment. And so we then, we went in and backfilled a bit of the technical concepts, the technical terminology. But entailment was the sort of the big ticket item that we started out with. So we know that an argument's premises either do or do not entail its conclusion or their conclusion. Right? So entailment is synonymous with validity, is synonymous with logical correctness. Okay. And And when the premises do not entail the conclusion, so when we don't have entailment, I'll just draw a line through it. When we don't have entailment, we have what's known as an invalid argument or a condition of invalidity, right? Or logical incorrectness or a logically incorrect argument. And one of the ways that we talked about assessing an argument was, or let me rephrase that, forgive me. One of the ways that we talked about determining entailment or determining validity or determining logical correctness was in terms of falsifiability, right? So we know that an argument is invalid when the conclusion can be falsified without thereby contradicting the premises. Right? So we talked about that in terms of demonstrating non-consequence. And one of the reasons I think why invalidity tends to be a bit confusing to us is it's often the case that you can have an argument whose premises and conclusion are actually true. So you think, oh, everything's fine, but the issue is with the structure of the argument, right? So you say what you do is you say, okay, I'm going to try to come up with a counterexample where what I do is I keep the form of the reasoning, but I put different content in, right? When you find yourself, for example, in response to the inference drawn that is not logically entailed, right, by the premises, when you find yourself saying not necessarily, then that's your cue that probably something's off, right? So, I mentioned, so I was chatting with one of you earlier, and I had to be all apologies because when I messed up I switched the answer choices on the two exercises that I mentioned. The class member was like, but effectively this inference doesn't follow, or this sentence doesn't follow. It's not necessarily the case, and yet you're saying that the argument's valid by the in the key. And I went, oops, no. Right? So, your intellectual intuitions are quite good, right? Again, if you find yourself a bit confused, it tends to be because those invalid arguments, those arguments whose premises do not entail the conclusion, oftentimes are arguments whose premises are in fact true and whose conclusion is in fact true. And so we get sucked into the content, right? So one of the nice things about this kind of the work that we're doing is that we become we learn and we train ourselves to grasp what it means for the reasoning to fail in terms of a deductive failure. We learn what that looks like in terms of the formal features, right? And then, as you know, the more you work it, the better it goes. But don't forget, as I think I've pointed out to you before, if you find yourself puzzled or turned around, or things are feeling, discombobulated, you're feeling discombobulated, then maybe just, slow things down. Like I am unapologetically a really slow thinker. At least I believe I am. And I don't really know what maybe if it's a life or death situation, I would think faster, but by and large, Going slow is just fine. So give yourself time, to work through it. And like I said, if anything ever looks wonky to you, let me know. I'd much rather you let me know than not, because I wouldn't want for there to be any sort of, typo or other glitch that I've created. Okay, so we were working on this for a bit, and we will use these concepts as our kind of foundation for everything else that we're going to do. Okay, a further concept that we talked about is the concept of soundness. So here's something that might feel a little bit, again, confusing, but will I think as a review and as you keep working with it, it'll get easier. So a sound argument is a valid argument, and I'm abbreviating argument as arg, and its premises, which I'm abbreviating as PRR, are actually true. Or are in fact true. Okay? So by definition, a sound argument is already valid. And then the added, so sort of the ultimate is that you've got the true premises along with it, right? So as you can probably get, all sound arguments are valid. Not all valid arguments are sound. Right? So we can say that validity is part of the definition of soundness. But soundness is not part of the definition of validity. Okay. You can probably also think as sort of one implication is that so all invalid arguments are unsound. We, again, just to sort of beat this repeatedly, some valid arguments are sound, some valid arguments are not. Some valid arguments are not. So remember, we had, here's a sound argument, right? Mitt Romney or Barack Obama was the 44th U.S. president. And, I use some of these examples repeatedly because if you remember them and you say, okay, that's my go-to, now I can think about the structure, now I can think about the content, right? That's a nice way for you to kind of crab walk your way, for example, to other concepts or to just remembering what it is that you want to know about validity and soundness. Then we said it's not Mitt Romney, so it's Barack Obama. And then recall the other example that we used, moon is green or blue cheese. And I'm just doing a shorthand here, which I hope you don't mind. Moon is not blue cheese. And it doesn't matter which side of the or we reject. So the moon is green cheese. right? So we've got some valid arguments being sound, some valid arguments are sound, some valid arguments are unsound, right? All invalid arguments are unsound because remember, validity is part of the requirement of soundness. Okay. Now, I'm 99% confident that by the time we get through, I want to say, I think it'll be like chapter 15 or so. There's a good number of chapters in our text because the material is divided up into kind of bite-sized pieces, which is really nice, gives you some time to digest it. But by the time we get through the material that's associated with Boolean and propositional logic, if you come back to the earlier stuff, you'll say, oh, yeah, now that I've worked through all this stuff, this is so much easier, right? Again, part of it says this stuff scaffolds. So by the time you're working at a certain level, you've just been consistently, drilling this earlier set of concepts and skills. Okay, is there anything about this review that you want to go over?
I had a quick question. So the moon is green example, that's valid but not sound.
Yes, Julianne.
Yeah, this part's a little confusing for me.
Yeah. Look, it's it's just normal. It's the, my presumably offensive example is this stuff is like puberty. It just sucks because it's so miserable, but it's normal and natural to be confused. But so let's think about it this way, Julianne. Whether we assume, and I'm putting a little arrow there, whether we assume our premises are true, right? Assume forces true, or we know, or sorry, that's supposed to be a T, right? Where did my, oh, here it is. I should use a different color, that might be good, right? So, true, right? But the moon is made of blue or green cheese. We know that's false. It's true the moon is not made of blue cheese, right? And it's also false that the moon is made of green cheese. By the way, I was mentioning earlier, today is a really, really bad thinking day for me, so my apologies in advance. I will be even more annoying than usual because I can't wrap my mouth around words and I can't get thoughts out. But anyway, Julianne, does it help to say, okay, I know what the facts are here in red, right? But I also know that the facts aren't essential to the correctness of the reasoning. And I know that it makes sense to say, but reasoning that's correct has got to be true, right? But think just about the structure of the thing, the architecture of the thing, right? Not the furnishings in some sense, if that helps.
This might be a stupid question, but like the
Never.
green or blue cheese, like what makes that a false premise?
Oh, it's no. Now, first, please don't characterize your questions as stupid. That reminds me, there was this thing in the news, and this is relevant. I promise, I'm not just going on a tangent. There was this thing in the news about, I guess, some teenager has a TikTok channel, and she was talking about, she was like doing her makeup to go to school or something. She was talking about just musing about things, and one of the things she was musing about was the reality of math, right? So are numbers real? And she was expressing frustration with math and so forth. And apparently she got like skewered by people saying, "Oh, she's so stupid," and da da da. No, that's actually a really deeply philosophical question. It's a really important question. What is the nature of math? Does it exist right? Well, no, it doesn't exist in the sense that, a table and a chair exists, but it's real in some sense, right? Well, if so, how? So when, don't condition your questions by already assessing them as stupid. It's not at all. That's a great question. Why is the sentence, the moon is made of blue or green cheese, false? Well, here's a theory of truth to help us. If we take the sentence as a whole and think about what our scientists have told us, we'd say that it's just empirically false, right? So astronauts have gone to the moon and they brought back moon rocks and moon dust and so forth, and there doesn't seem to be any green cheese or blue cheese involved. In other words, that first claim is said to be empirically verifiable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, but your question allows us to move into the stuff that we were working on last week. So let me try to offer the following. What is it that makes an or statement true? As long as at least one of the or sides is true, the or as a whole is true. Right? So remember last week we were talking about, one of the examples I was using was you and I wearing glasses, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's true that Julianne wears, or let's make me the example since we can see me. If it's true that Mia wears glasses, it doesn't matter what we know about Julianne wearing glasses. Because if it's true that Mia wears glasses, then at least one or the other does. Yeah? Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So now, how would you characterize the sentence, the moon is made of green cheese, in terms of not just, the evaluation of it, but how would you characterize it in terms of what type of sorry, I got distracted. My pencil battery is low. How would you characterize the sentence?
Characterize
Evaluate it. I'm sorry. That would be the better way to put it. How would you evaluate the sentence?
Like as if it was true or false?
Yeah.
I would say true, but I'm not too confident in that answer.
So the sentence, the moon is made of green cheese. Mm-hmm. Why? What makes you think that it would be true?
Because it seems like a conclusion to me, so I would assume that the conclusion's true.
Oh. Okay. I'm glad that you described. You're thinking. Sorry. Now I'm losing my bits and pieces of pencil here. Okay. Set the sentence apart from its appearance in an argument. If you and I are outside at night and we look up at the moon and I say, it's made of green cheese, you would say?
I'd say false.
Yes. Okay. Why?
Just because we know it's not made out of green cheese.
Yeah. Okay. So notice what you did. I think what I'm hearing is, as often happens, you guys are like, you're too smart for your own good, whereby I mean in this case, you're thinking too fast for your own good. Notice what you said originally. You think the sentence, the moon is made of green cheese, is true because you were thinking about the structural entailment from the premises. So yeah, you're right. Logically, from those premises, that conclusion is true.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
But empirically, the sentence is false.
Right, yeah.
Yeah? Good for you.
Thank you.
Of course. No, you got it. And you're right that you're kind of toggling, right, between what we take to be true for the purpose of the argument versus what we know, in this case, empirically to be true. Or false.
Okay.
Yeah, good for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to talking about the truth and falsity of our sentences that, sorry, that was an ugly sentence. Let's go on to reviewing how we can determine the truth or falsity of a sentence that is compounded by a connective. Okay? So,
Professor?
yeah, what do you think in Berman?
I was like disconnected for the past like 10 minutes because of my internet, but I came back and I heard you were talking about the moon is made of blue cheese thing. I remember in our textbook it said that was a valid statement if the previous two sentences were contradictions.
Right? Yeah.
Do you happen to go over that? I wasn't here for the past 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, so it's great that you asked that question. This is a very to most of us that anything follows from a contradiction feels really weird, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, no, sentences are supposed to follow in some sort of chain-like fashion from other sentences. But let's think about for a moment, instead of sort of an outright contradiction, as in, let's say, Berman is having Wi-Fi trouble, and it's not the case that Berman is having Wi-Fi trouble or internet trouble, whichever. Right? That's a self-contradictory sentence. Berman is and is not having internet trouble. Set that aside for just a moment. Let's think about the argument that we were looking at the very bottom of the whiteboard. The moon is made of green or blue cheese, right? We've got this either or, right? And then one side is rejected, right? The possibility of it being blue cheese is negated, or the blue cheesiness is contradicted. No, that's not the case, which leaves the other side.
Oh, okay.
Does that make some sense?
Yeah, I was just reading what you wrote down right now.
Okay.
And it makes sense.
Okay. And I know also that, my writing is can be illegible. So don't be shy about saying, "Hey, Mia, what did you just write? I can't make that out." When we're
It's better than mine.
okay. So when we're in a physical classroom together, I can see people's faces and I can see the looks of like disbelief and complete incomprehension, and then I think, oh yeah, I've written something that like it can't even be deciphered. So don't be shy about that.
Yeah, I understand now. Thank you.
Okay, good. So now let's do this. Let me see if my pencil has got a little bit of charge now. Unfortunately, I can't. I don't get a message about that until it's actually low. All right, so. And I think I was unsuccessful our first week or second week. I can't remember when I first tried to use the whiteboard on the tablet, and I told you that I was going to, save the notes and post them, but then I was unsuccessful doing that. But I think I've got it now. So any of these notes that I'm writing down, I will, as long as I'm successful in saving them, I promise I will upload them. And then of course there's always the video if you ever want to go back and consult that. Okay, so now we went into, so basically what we just finished was a discussion of that covers material from chapters effectively 1 through, I think it should be 4. And what we want to do now is review what we started last week. So here's what we already know. Every sentence that is a candidate for an argument. Oh, sorry, I just messed up. Hold on. That is a candidate for an argument. and I'll say more about that in just a moment, is either true or false. That is, it has a truth value. Okay. So, what I mean by is a candidate for an argument is this. We can't really use, for example, questions in an argument, right? They just don't serve the purpose of an argument, which is to establish some claim, right? So you won't have the following in an argument: how are you? In an argument, right? And the how are you is simply soliciting a response that's not about a truth value, right? Well, I'm doing just fine. You're not going to respond to the question, how are you, with true, false, not even yes, no, right? So now we want to talk about, as we started, what makes a sentence, true or false. Well, we started by saying that we could look at, for example, some sort of empirical verification, right? But there are sentences that you may say that you can verify empirically, but if we look at the logical structure of the sentence, we'll notice that the verification is limited to what are known as possible truth values. So that might sound a bit convoluted. So let me see if I can clarify by building up. Okay, so sentences are either simple or compound. Now, what I'm about to say is not going to be super helpful, but it will make sense, I think, retroactively. A simple or atomic sentence does not have a truth value. Or, sorry, I said does not have a truth value. Does not have a connective. Okay, we'll talk about, what a connective is. It is, and this is also not super helpful, but bear with me. It is the smallest linguistic entity that has a truth value that is true or false. Right? So the sentence can be long in terms of the number of words in the sentences. It can have dependent clauses and so forth. But the simple sentence doesn't have any kind of connective. So here are just a couple very, very simple examples, or easy examples, I should say. So you could say something like, Julian is sitting, right? You can have a sentence with more words. Julian is sitting in the living room, right? And so forth. But there's no, as I said, connective. So now let's review what we've got with those animals. A compound sentence contains or consists of at least one simple sentence and at least one connective. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of examples that will be part of the material that we're working on through, like I said, I think it's like chapter 15, where we're dealing with what are known as singular sentences. So I'm not going to write the following down. I'm just going to tell you and hope that when we work on what's known as quantifier logic, that you'll say, oh, this kind of rings a bell, even if you don't remember the details of what we talked about. But singular sentences are sentences about individual persons, places, times, things, right? So individual animals. So there's Stewie over there. I can make a sentence about Stewie. I've made a sentence about Julianne. I can make a sentence about Grady or Jesse and so forth, right? Now, sometimes for the sake of I don't want to say for the sake of convenience, but sometimes if we're not interested in the fact that a sentence is about multiple things. So for example, if we have a sentence about the Republicans or we have a sentence about the Democrats, now we're talking about multiple individuals, but we treat the sentence as a singular sentence insofar as we're talking about, this party, this political party, that political party, right? But there are simple and compound sentences that are not singular, right? But instead are about instead are quantified, right? So singular sentence: Julianne is sitting in the living room. Quantified sentence: someone is sitting in the living room, or everybody's sitting in the living room, right? Something like that. Okay. All right. So, a couple of examples, as promised, I hope, where you have a simple sentence and a connective. So, how about this? It's not the case that Julianne is in the living room, which I'm abbreviating as LR. Right? So it's not the case that Julianne is in the living room, sitting in the living room. Here's another sentence, and I'm running out of room, so I'm gonna bring it. Actually, I'm gonna bring it on the side over here. So bear with me. Julianne. Hold on. I hit something. It's not affecting you, but oh no, it is affecting you. Darn it. Oh no, we're in Zoom. Come here. Come on, Mia, you can do it. Oh, good grief. Where's my video conference application thingies? Here we go. All right. Is it back? Okay. But where did it go? Oh, view all whiteboards. There it is. Okay. Ha! Got it back. Wait. I'm confused. So the whiteboard that I want is showing up in this little thumbnail, but but when I tap on it, it doesn't appear. Okay, so forget it. I'm not going to waste your time. Let's just pretend like that other page is still up. Okay, so here's another sentence. Why is it there now? Okay, forget it. So, Julianne, thank goodness I'm not trying to make a fancy pants video a fancily produced video. Julianne is not in the living room, but she is in the kitchen. How are we doing? So let me circle our connectives. It's not the case, right? Compounds the simple sentence, Julianne is in the living room. Then we have a negation and a conjunction. Julianne is not in the living room, but she's in the kitchen. Okay, so let me pause for a moment. I'm gonna get a new whiteboard going. How are we doing? Is what I've been doing ringing bells? Does this sound familiar?
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody else? Questions, problems, confusions? So far, so good? Okay. Hold on just a second because... oh, I see where it is. Okay, good. All right, so next... we're going to come back, so let's do this. We also chatted a bit last week about the how and the why we translate from ordinary English into symbolic logic notation, right? So, oh, I just found something else that might work. Ha ha ha. Let me try this. Okay, so let's take the sentence. Oh, whoa. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay, sorry. I'm doing something, and I'm trying to be clever. It might not work. Hold on. Okay. So I found a way to, I think, make my writing more legible, and I think I'm going to start to feel very good about myself. And I hope you feel good about yourself too. All right. No, it really doesn't make it that much better. Sorry. Okay. So Julianne is not in the living room, but she's in the kitchen. By the way, if I use a pronoun that you don't apply to yourself, please tell me and I'll change it. Okay. So typically what we do when we want to translate from ordinary English into symbolic logic notation is we pick a capital letter, A through Z, that we'll use, especially if we're talking about working in an argument, that we will use for every iteration of the simple sentence for which that capital letter stands. So simple sentence, Julianne is in the living room. Here's another simple sentence. Julianne is in the kitchen. So, why not take L for Julianne is in the living room? So I'll just say, here's L, and then K for Julianne is in the kitchen, right? Now, the next thing I need to do is put these in an order, and I need to incorporate my connectives. Now, the symbolic logic operators, negation and conjunction, right, are at work here. What we want to do, and by the way, you could figure out your connectives first if you want. I've just started with the simple sentence, but if we've started with the simple sentences and now we're moving into connectives, that will be the next step to get those in order. We want to figure out what the order is of our elements. So does everybody remember that our symbol for negation, or it's not the case, not, it's false that, is the tilde. Right? I hope you remember that from last week. And then there are actually quite a few ordinary English words that we translate using the conjunction connective. So, and, both, and, but, yet, nevertheless, moreover, still. Those are conjunctions, and the conjunction is symbolized with the ampersand. Okay, so we've got L, we've got negation, conjunction, K. Now, this is the order that the sentence elements appear, but this is not well formed. Okay? And we need to talk about why it's not well formed. So, one of the things that we do in symbolic logic, as we do in any language, is, we follow a grammar and a syntax. So what we do with negations is we always notate them. We put the tilde out front or to the left of whatever sentence is negated. So tilde always to the left of the negated sentence. Guys, hold on just 1 second. I'm hearing a noise that I need to address. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so the tilde is always to the left of the negated sentence. Okay. Conjunction, and as we'll see, disjunction, we saw it last week, but we'll see again this week. Conjunction and disjunction always are sandwiched between the sentences that they connect. Sorry, hold on just 1 second, guys.
Yeah.
So, what's she doing? She's getting into bed? I just muted myself.
Yeah.
Okay, does she look like she's there safely?
I think so. I mean, she's kind of, how she does. She's kind of
Okay.
paying to the side.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Sorry about that. My 87-year-old mother is on the loose. Okay. So we've got the ampersand, the symbol for conjunction, sandwiched between the two sentences that it connects, right? So what's happening here is, actually I'll use yellow. What's happening here is the not L is being conjoined with the K. Okay? All right, how are we doing? Does this ring some bells? What I'd like, ideally, is for you guys to be saying, yeah, Mia, I got it, move along, right? I want you to feel really confident about what we're doing.
Actually, I had another question.
Yeah, good, go for it.
So when I was reading in the textbook about this, there was a sentence in there that I didn't know how to write because I was getting confused with the tilde.
Okay.
And the sentence was, "It's not true that Uma is guilty and innocent."
Oh, yeah. So, Julianne, this is twice in one day that you've anticipated where we're going. Good for you. Okay. So, one of the elements of a compound sentence, sorry, let me rephrase that. One way that a sentence can be compounded is by employing a pair of parentheses, and depending on how complicated the sentence gets, you can have multiple parentheses. If you can distinguish your one set of parentheses from another by brackets or curly braces, but your compound sentence can be symbolized with parentheses in order to express a grouping, right? So Julianne, correct me if I'm remembering wrongly the sentence in question. It was Pia can't be both guilty and innocent.
That one was another one too that was kind of confusing, but the one in particular was it's not true that Uma is guilty and innocent.
Yes, sorry. I'm okay. I can if you tell me a string of numbers in like 2 seconds, I'll forget them, and it's like I'm just as bad with the names. Okay. So it's not the case that both, is that the phrasing at the front?
It's not true that Uma is guilty and innocent.
Okay.
Yeah, I was getting confused because, like, I think with a few of the questions, like, I don't have the textbook in front of me, but, like, the tilde before, like, the name, like, is that supposed to mean not guilty?
Oh, okay. So reduce. Oh, I see. I thought you were thinking about the parentheses. Okay, so let's do this. Let me take the sentence. So, sorry, it's not the case.
It's not true that Uma is guilty and innocent.
Yeah. Is guilty and innocent. Okay. So, let's break this sentence down. So first, we've got Uma's status. Uma is guilty. And then I'm going to use green so that we can separate out the Uma is guilty from the sentence Uma is innocent. Okay, so what if we do the following? What if we take I for innocent, and how about G for guilty? Right, because it's Uma in each case, so we can't use you and you because we won't know which one, right? And then, are you comfortable with the fact that the sentences conjoining the guilt and innocence sentences? Yeah. Is that comfortable?
Yeah, I think.
Right, so let's read this back together. Uma is guilty and Uma is innocent. Okay? But as you rightly point out, the sentence says it's not true that. Now, here's the question. Is it not true that she's guilty but she is innocent? Or is it not true that she's both? So if the flow of the sentence doesn't make it clear, then you have to stipulate, right? You might, if you're, let's say this sentence appears within the larger context of an argument, then what you'll have to do is maybe look around and see where else those elements appear so that you can then read back into this one. But the way that I heard you read it tells me that we're saying it's not true that she's both. It's not true that she's guilty and innocent. So parentheses. And the parentheses tell you that the negation is what's driving the sentence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Well, more sense.
Yeah, and it just takes a little bit of time. I mean, for most of us, the process of translation from ordinary English into symbolic logic notation is tricky, and it takes a little bit of time. But if you follow a process, so I think one process to follow is to start with your identifying your simple sentences, then identify your connectives, right? Or you can identify your connectives first and then your simple sentences, right? Get your pieces laid out. So you're analyzing the sentence, right? You're not just reading it as a whole and sort of following along with your ordinary ways of thinking about it and moving on to the next thing. You're unpacking this sentence. You are explicating the structure of this sentence. So if you follow that process, you keep chugging away at it, it should get easier. And don't forget, folks, if there's something, if you want more practice, I will make sure that that's available. So no worries there. You may say, you know, I've done all the practice in the book and I want more. You got it. Just let me know. In fact, I should do it as a matter of course. But you know, and this is my own fault for not getting it done in time. But when we switched to this text, I didn't have the time to generate some new practice, but I've got old practice that we can make work. Okay, so does all of this ring some bells so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on now to our last connective. So how about the sentence we were working on last week? So let's say it was something like this, I think. It was, I'm gonna try this formulation. At least Julianne or Mia wears glasses. Another way to formulate the sentence is Julianne or Mia wears glasses. And still another way is either one or the other, Mia or Julianne wears glasses. Right? So again, we want to say, that we've got two simple sentences, right? Julianne wears glasses. Mia wears glasses. And the connective is the or, right? And recall that our connective is called the disjunction. And so we get the following: Julianne or Mia wears glasses. So negation. Whoa, I'm dropping things. Negation, conjunction, disjunction are our three Boolean connectives. I mean, let's think about this for a second. When you think about the richness of languages, and you are told that you can construct a complete logical system from simple sentences and these connectives, that's pretty extraordinary. All right, so negation is symbolized by the tilde. Remember, the negation always goes to the left of whatever sentence is being negated. And sorry, but I didn't realize that was there. Conjunction, it says both and. And then disjunction, so sorry, conjunction is symbolized with the ampersand. So you've got not for negation, we've got and then disjunction, which is symbolized with a little lowercase v or wedge, is or. Okay, so it's not kind of super sexy, but the logic we're working on is going to be a logic of assembling and disassembling sentences by way of their connectives. I think about it, even though negation is not a joint because it doesn't pull together two sentences. It operates from the front, if you will. But we're sort of assembling and disassembling at the joints, right? Putting sentences together and taking them apart. Okay, so before moving on, what's our thinking? Does all of this ring bells? Yeah, so far so good. All right. Any questions, problems, confusions about this material in relation to the text? Like, I appreciate it when you raise questions like, hey, I was looking at the sentence and I was confused. Which, by the way, Julianne, I promise I haven't forgotten. You had another sentence in there that you wanted to talk about, so we will. Okay, but so far so good?
Yeah, just that sentence. Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. You could go first.
No, that was it. That was the only sentence I had.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll keep practicing anyway. Hannah, what are you thinking?
Conjunction can also work with but and however.
Yeah, so there's actually, a fairly long list. So we've got but, yet, moreover, still, nevertheless, in addition. Like, every time you're sort of adding to a list, you're saying it's this, along with this, along with this, along with this. That's your ampersand. That's your conjunction.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. And then, the disjunction only gives us trouble, I think, because when it does give us trouble, because we think of the disjunction as exclusive, right? You can have supersolid, but not both. But logic says effectively, look, if you don't say the but not both, then you're saying there's at least one could in fact be both. Right? So we talked a little bit about that last week, right? So, if I say, I think you folks have seen Stewie before, right? And Stewie's coming back up after dinner. And I say, so at least Stewie or Walter is a dog. So at least one or the other is a dog. And you know that Stewie is a dog. You know that sentence is true without knowing anything about Walter. Just so happens Walter is a dog as well. Right? So let's push on the truth tables. If you have any trouble, remember, with any of this stuff, like at some point, if you say, oh, I had it now and then I lost it, or I have no idea what's going on, this is all a horrible mess, say so. I'm not lying when I say nobody historically is worse at logic than I am. Still. I know what you're thinking. What are you doing wasting our time then? Okay. See, I told you, there's Walter right there. Woof. Okay, let's talk truth tables. Okay, so here's the question before us. We know that every sentence is true or false, right? When is a sentence that's governed by negation, conjunction, or disjunction, true or false? In other words, how I'm going to say is, how is each operator defined? Okay, so recall that every sentence, I'll just say, the stand-in for any sentence in the universe is going to be P, right? So every sentence is true or false. So we understand the definitions and then we understand what are known as the possible truth values of any sentence governed by one of these connectives in terms of the elements, in terms of the constituents, right? So we build up to the connectives or the operator's values from the original sentence, right? So P could be any sentence in the universe. It could be the sentence, Julianne wears glasses. It could be the sentence, Julianne wears glasses, but, Grady doesn't, right? It doesn't matter what the sentence is. If the sentence is true, and then it is negated, right? You have the following, right? So negation rejects the value of whatever sentence is being negated. So, not true is false, not false is true. Okay. Our conjunction, we worked through last week in terms of an example, and I think that your intuitions, your intellectual intuitions were really good. The demand of the conjunction is that each of the conjuncts, so the conjuncts are the two sides of the ampersand, each of the conjuncts is true, right? So we can say we've got some sentence P, conjunction, some sentence Q. And then do you recall how I laid out the permutations? In other words, what are the possible combinations of truth values? And what I didn't say last week was that the layout is always the same. And we'll talk more about that this week. So we've got sorry, go ahead, Hannah.
Oh, is it 4?
Yeah, exactly. Each could be true. That is a P and Q. P could be true, Q could be false. Then we flip it. P could be false, Q could be true. And then lastly, both could be false. And remember, we said that the conjunction demands each of the conjuncts be true, right? So true conjunction true is true. True conjunction false is false, right? And do you recall the ordinary language way we were talking about it? We said, well, if it's true that Julianne wears glasses, it's false that Mia wears glasses. Is it true that both do? And you'd say, no, it's not true that both do. It's false. Does that ring some bells?
Yes.
And again, when I first looked at truth tables, those many years ago, I just was utterly clueless and lost. Then again, I don't think anybody in the universe could have been more clueless and lost than I was. So if if you have any worry about the T's and the F's flying around, there are a number of ways that we can talk about coming to grips with these truth tables. Okay. But what I'd like to do is just highlight, row number 1. And we know that, a conjunction is true if and only if each of the conjuncts is true. Uh-oh. I did it again, didn't I? Darn it. I called up Siri, apparently. Okay. Okay, does this ring some bells? Everybody's okay? We ready for our last connective? Yay, Mia, I can't wait. It's the best ever. Okay, actually, I'll do it over here, although it's not gonna be as attractive as I would like it to be. So the last one is our disjunction. And by the way, take a look at the column under P in the conjunction sentence. TTFF. We're going to duplicate that. Take a look at the alternating values under Q. We're going to duplicate that. And this will come into play when we work with sentences that involve more than just two simple sentences. All right, so if we know that P is true, then the disjunction has to be true, right? At least one is true, so the disjunction is true. Now look at row 2. It's Q is false, but P is still true. So at least one of them is true. Now row 3, P is false, but that's okay. Q is true, so at least one is true. And then look at row 4. A disjunction is false when each of the disjuncts is false. Okay, so question for you. Does this ring some bells?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Where's our comfort level?
I'm pretty good.
Okay, good. Hannah, can I pick on you since you were generous enough to say I'm pretty comfortable? When you think about this stuff, do you find yourself saying, oh, like, so something like, oh, okay, well, I would think about it this way, or this is how I understand it, or this is how it makes sense to me? The reason why I ask is because almost invariably, you folks will speak up about what you're thinking, and somebody will say, oh my gosh, that helps so much. Right? So the way that Mia, articulate things, however much I may try to be comprehensive or whatever else, doesn't mean that I'm gonna just get everybody every time, right? I'll sure as heck do my best, and if something I say doesn't make sense, I want you to tell me and I'll try again. But it's really helpful, I think, when you folks will share with each other how you're thinking about these things. So I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, and maybe you need time kind of to formulate your thinking a little bit, Hannah, but how can you say how you approach one or more of these connectives in terms of how we determine whether or not they're true?
I mean, I guess it's just practice, like seeing more and more examples is what helps me.
Examples of, like, from ordinary English translated and then the truth table written, or
Yeah.
Sorry, say again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
whatever we've been working on in the textbook.
Okay. Yeah, and so what you're mentioning is one approach to how this can yield. I don't know what it is about, the repetition. I mean, I know we form habits when we kind of see this similar things over and over and over again, or we see, these definitions, repeated in a number of different examples. But that's always really, really helpful. And sometimes for me, it's almost like the rote memorization is the way that things start to unlock for me in terms of then grasping what it means. And then other times I can't remember if I don't understand. So, kind of figure out who you are, and you might even change, the way you learn this might change from one topic to the next, but bear that in mind. All right, so let's now accomplish a few things at once. I'm thinking about something that Cameron was talking about last week. And I'm also thinking about the translations that, or the translation that Julianne had mentioned was a little bit confusing. And then also Hannah talking about, seeing a number of instances. So I want to take the following example and let's work on it together and then see what we make of the truth table. So here we go. So not both Joe Biden and Donald Trump are the 45th U.S. president. Okay. So, question for you. What jumps out at you first when you're thinking about what we've been looking at? Is it the case that the simple sentences jump out at you, or the names of the people, or the connectives? What jumps out at you?
The names of the people.
Okay. So let's start with that. So we've got a sentence about Joe Biden, and we've got a sentence about Donald Trump, right? And we're saying that the simple sentence is Joe Biden is the 45th, and the simple sentence is Donald Trump is the 45th. Fair enough?
Yes.
Okay. So let's use J for Joe Biden. We'll use D for Donald Trump. Now let's consider the connective or connectives. So what ordinary English words jump out at you as connectives? So remember, we've got three. We've got the negation, the conjunction, and the disjunction.
So not and.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, go again. So I think it was Julianne and Hannah. Julianne, what are you saying?
I was saying and not.
Good. And Hannah?
Yeah, I just said not.
And you said no. Okay. So I'm going to circle both and. It may be useful to you. We'll see. And then I'm going to go ahead and circle not. So we've got, and I'm going to just translate in order. It's often the case that you can just translate the ordinary English sentence into notation, to logical notation, in the order of the elements, appearances in the ordinary English sentence. So it's not the case both and, right? Does that look good so far?
Yes.
Let's read it back. This is what the sentence as translated reads. It is not the case that Joe Biden is the 44th president and Donald Trump is the 45th president and Donald Trump is the 45th president. Does that seem right to you?
Yes.
Well, it's a fact, but when you look at the sentence as written, what do you take?
Wouldn't we need a parenthesis?
Yes, because notice what's being rejected.
D.
Well, what's being rejected specifically, it's not both of them. right? So do you see the arrow that I draw that I've drawn from the word not to the both, right? So we're saying it's not the case that both. What do we think? Okay, so
So if you don't put the parentheses in there, that would just be saying that J is not, but D is.
yes. So let's go ahead and write that. So not both rejects the conjunction, right? If we simply have, I'm going to just put this in black. I think it'll be easier. If we have, it's not the case that Joe Biden and it is Donald Trump, then here the negation operates exclusively on J. The sentence, however, the ordinary English sentence, the sentence above, oops, it'd be nice if I'd spell it right. How did I start the sentence? This, oh, okay. So the sentence denies the conjunction. Question for you. Is there another way that you could assert the sentence that preserves the meaning? So the question is not both. What's another way you could formulate it?
J or D.
Okay, so let's push on this. Really good. So when we're going to write the equivalent sentence, and we're going to look at a truth table to help us with this, it's known as a tautological equivalence. When we write the equivalent sentence, and we do want to understand equivalences for a couple of different reasons, so we'll get to that. But for right now, let's say the following: the truth functional equivalence is either not Joe Biden or not Donald Trump, right? So not both says the same thing as, well, it's either not one or it's not the other. So Hannah, you did something interesting, and I don't know why we do this exactly, but I think it's because we try to eliminate the negation. But think about what happens in the following way. You're pushing your negation through the parenthetical, and it ends up being distributed. And this is one of what are known as two De Morgan's equivalences. De Morgan is just the name of the guy who came up with these. But you're distributing the negation through the parenthetical. So it looks like this. Either it's not Joe Biden or it's not Donald Trump. Okay? So let's now take these two sentences and let's construct two truth tables. So here's what I'm going to do. Tell me if you like this or not. I'm going to take the J and the D, and I'm going to replace them so that we stop thinking about Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I'm going to replace them with P and Q. And I'm going to put our possible truth values in this reference column, set of reference columns that I'm going to build. And remember, when you have these two sentences, you are going to have 4 possible values. And, you know, we understand that J and D are simple sentences. P and Q are just stand-ins, now we'll say, for any simple sentence, right? So we've got P and Q, and so there are 4 possible truth value combinations. What else do we know? Well, we know that I started one sentence, I started in one way and then mentally I went somewhere else. We know that the truth of a given sentence is a function of the constituents. In other words, the simplest values and the meanings of the connectives. So in that last whiteboard, let me show you, just to remind you. In the last whiteboard sentence, I wrote the truth functional equivalent sentence. So what I'm after is, this. The truth is a function of the way that the operator is going to perform or operate on the values that are given. So that those initial values are crucial. All right, so I'm going to now write the same sentences, except I'm eliminating the, if you will, the identifying features from the original ordinary English. Okay, now another animal that we worked on last week was how we, what the order of operations is to conduct to determine the values of each of the sentences. So one thing we want to think about is which of the operators in each of these sentences is the so-called main operator, what governs the sentence as a whole. So the first sentence and the second sentence have multiple operators. So the question is, which one is the main operator? When you think about going back, you read the sentence out, notice you have, it's not the case that this whole thing. So your negation is the main connective. And we determine the values for the main connective last because those are the values of the sentence, right, as a whole. How about the second sentence? Is the first negation the disjunction or the second negation the main operator? What do you think and why?
Can you repeat what you asked?
Yeah. So for sentence number 2, negation P, disjunction, negation Q, which is the main connective, the main operator? What drives or governs the sentence? Is it a negation sentence? If so, which one? Or is it a disjunction sentence?
Disjunction?
Why are you thinking that?
Because our attention goes to the or.
Yeah, that's one way you can think about it. Why are you not writing for me? Come here, you little brat. Oh, shoot. Hold on, I might. I don't know if this is gonna work. Looks like my little pencil battery went. Darn it all. Can I do this with my hand? Let's see. Nope. Oh. Nope. Okay, hold on. Pretend like we're on a break. So, it's always something, isn't it? Oh, I know. Okay, I think I've got it. This will probably end up being a bit ugly because I'm going to be using, it's like finger painting. But until I can get the battery going, we've got this. Okay, so, here we go. Why are you not working for me? Work for me. There it is. Okay, so like I said, break over. So Hannah rightly pointed out that it's the disjunction. Think about it this way if you want. The disjunction is bringing together this negation sentence, and this negation covers the left negation covers only P, and it brings together that negation sentence. That negation covers only Q, right? So the disjunction is what holds the elements together. Does that make some sense?
Yes.
All right, so now we want to determine our values in order. It doesn't matter which sentence we work first. What matters is the order within the sentence of the operations. So let's just start left to right. Well, so we work the conjunction first, and then we negate all of the values under conjunction. So some of you are going to be fine with this reference column. Some of you might say, no, I need the values under each of the simple sentences. And if you do, you can always just, write them in. It's not a problem. But I'm just going to leave the reference values off to the side under the reference columns, just so that there's not a lot of clutter, especially with me writing by hand. It can get, my writing gets really ugly. So what do we know about a conjunction? A conjunction is true when and only when each of the conjuncts is
True.
awesome. So, and let's all say this together. You ready? True conjunction true is true. True conjunction false is
False.
false conjunction true is
False.
false conjunction false is
False.
false. Isn't it like, did you guys do the times table chant in elementary school? 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just like it. Doesn't it feel like elementary school again? All over again. Okay, now we're ready to negate all these values, right? Not false is, or sorry. Not true is.
Are we doing disjunction now?
Oh no, sorry. Now we're here. We're under we're going to negate all of our conjunction values. Because remember, the negation in that sentence is the main operator. Ready? Go.
Yeah.
Not true is.
False.
Not false is.
True.
Yeah, come on. We'll get together for a chant, everybody. It'll be fun. Not false is.
True.
Not,
I think there's gonna be a trick question for sure.
no, I'm not smart enough to do trick questions. When something looks off, it's because Mia messed up. Not false is.
True.
Awesome. And in all seriousness, actually, I'm glad you said that, Berman. Here's why. When you know your logic, who cares what Mia says? Right? Does that make sense? Because I don't decide.
I guess that's true with other subjects too, like math. When there's a finite answer,
Yeah.
then you can just find it out yourself.
Yeah. And one of the things that's really nice about a liberal arts education is you're supposed to be liberated when you're studying across these disciplines, because you're doing your work for yourself in such a way that you're making it your own. And yes, there are disagreements you might have on some finer point of something or other in a literature, in a novel or a poem. In biology, there are going to be disagreements that biologists engage in, and in fact, just today, I had a doctor appointment. I was doing a video conference call, and we were talking about a condition that I have. And I kid you not, this is these are specialists that I go to. And my doctor's like, yeah, I don't really think that's what's going on. I mean, and he started telling me what he thinks is really going on. And I'm like, okay, so you guys don't agree about this either. Okay, fine. So, but it's not like the molecules and the proteins and the other things that they're talking to me about, or my symptoms or whatever is going. It's not like those aren't real and that we can't agree on, some kind of baseline reality, right? The disagreements at that point are important disagreements, right? But in a sense, if these two or three or however many specialists, if there's disagreement among specialists, then you bring your own thinking to bear. Now, what the specialists won't disagree on is whether or not, when we follow this logical system, we're doing things right. So you don't need me. You and I might get into really interesting conversations about some theories on the philosophy of logic, right? I mean, when we talk about conditionals later on, there are some, logicians who say, no, the conditional is not truth functional. And, I mean, there are courses and books and papers devoted to the conditional. But engaging in that conversation, requires this sort of baseline knowledge, and you don't need anybody to help you with that. And once you have that in hand, right, you can consult with logic to see if you're right or not. You don't need to consult with me. And once you have that in hand, you can engage in these other conversations. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Are we ready? Do we have our values? Are we ready for our next sentence? It doesn't matter which negation we work first. Does that make sense? On sentence number 2. Okay. Right. So because the main connective is the disjunction, and each side of the disjunction is negated, but no one is there's no hierarchy, if you will. There's no order of operations. We can go right to left if we want. Why don't we? Are you ready?
Yes.
Excellent. Not false, or sorry, see, I did it. Not true is?
False.
Excellent. Not false is?
True.
Does everybody know where I'm looking, by the way, to get the values under the negation?
Are you looking at the table to the left?
Yeah.
The one you're circled.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Just confirming that you folks are comfortable with that. Okay. Where were we? Okay, so not true is,
False.
and not false is.
True.
Beautiful. Now let's do negation P. Not true is. Not true is.
False.
Not false is.
True.
True.
Not false is.
True.
Good. So you're just doing the same stuff over and over and again. All right, last set of values for the win. Are we ready? False disjunction false is.
False.
False disjunction true is. True disjunction false is? Yeah, remember why. A disjunction is false when and only when each of the disjuncts is.
False.
The disjunction is true provided at least one of the disjuncts is.
False.
Yeah, true, right? Yeah.
Okay.
True disjunction true is true. Okay, boom. I'm going to erase all of the stuff that went into building this up because at the end of the day, this is what we want to look at. So look at each row. I know my rows are off, but can you see each row clearly? Row number 1, do they have the same values?
Yes.
How about row 2?
Mm-hmm.
Row 3?
All of them.
Yeah. So these are known as tautological or truth functionally. So tautologically equivalent or truth functionally equivalent. They're truth table equivalent. They're equivalent. The language of a tautologically, the language of tautology is specific to the truth table. What do we think? So far, so good?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so if you want to determine whether or not 2 or more sentences are equivalent, what you need to do is develop, build that truth table. Now, one of the things we'll do is work on some longer truth tables, but what I'd like us to do is remind ourselves of a couple of items that we talked about last week. And then we'll talk a little bit about the formula for generating truth tables when you have, for generating truth tables. Actually, let's work one more truth table that is for 2 sentences that are also equivalent, tautologically equivalent, and they are the other set of De Morgan's equivalences. And these are really, really commonly used when we're working in logic. If, let's say, we're in a proof and we want to derive a sentence, we can replace one with the other because they say truth functionally the same thing. So let me give you that set. So the other one, and notice the similarity. Again, we'll have the idea of the negation being pushed through, or if we want to start with the negation on the inside, it's pushed out. I'll start it with the outside just to follow what we have above. So neither P nor Q, not either is neither, is equivalent to, I'm sorry, I realized I had some junk there, is equivalent to both are not. What do we think? It's not the case that either, neither, and it's not this one, and it's not that one, so both are not.
That sounds true.
Yeah, you okay with that? All right, so let's work this. How many values are we going to end up with in terms of the number of rows?
4.
Yeah. So just file this one away because we'll come back to it. The number of rows or the number of lines in a truth table is determined by the number of simple sentences. Okay, so we'll look at the formula for that in just a little bit. And again, if I can remember it, anybody can do it. So a disjunction is false when and only when each of the disjuncts is
True. False.
false. Correct. So true disjunction true is,
True.
right? Remember, I'm taking this guy and I'm bringing it to bear. Good. True disjunction false is.
False.
True.
Yeah, why is it true?
Because one of the sentences are true.
Exactly, Abdul, because at least one of the sentences is true. I think if that was you, Hannah, I think you might have been thinking of the conjunction.
Yeah, I'm just being mistaken.
Okay, excellent. Good, good. False disjunction true is,
True.
and false disjunction false is.
False.
Beautiful. All right, are we ready for the big ticket item? Not true is,
False.
not true is,
False.
not true is,
False.
not false is.
True.
Woo! Okay. Move on over to our conjunction. Does it make sense that the conjunction is the main connective?
Yeah.
As opposed to either one of the negations?
Yeah.
Okay. And if it doesn't, please don't be shy. I know lots of times what happens, especially in this class, is some folks won't say anything because they hear other people speaking up and they think, oh, I should know this. I'm behind. I don't get it. But please don't worry. In fact, oftentimes, if you're confused about something and you speak up, you working through, like, talking about the confusion can help you resolve it. Plus, it gives your classmates a chance to help you, and that's a good thing. But of course, if you really are shy and you don't want to speak up, please make sure you come see me. Talk to Lindsay. Don't suffer in silence. All right. So, have you already figured out the values? Tell me what to write under negation P. Come on, don't be shy. I know you want to say it, Abdul. Do it. Do it.
It's the question. So negation and so not. How do you pose that question? Not true and not true is false.
Oh, okay. I see what you're doing. I think I see what you're doing. So just as a reminder, you're taking all the values from under P, right? And you're negating them.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, good. So false. What's next? I'm going to make this smaller.
False.
Okay. False, false. Next.
False and true.
Wait, you said true on row 3, correct? You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How about not Q? Who wants to go? Or Abdul, if you want to go again, that's fine too.
Yeah. False. True. False. True.
Beautiful. All right. We're coming in for a landing. Is everybody ready? False conjunction false is.
False.
In fact, we didn't even need to look at our second conjunct, right? Because the first conjunct's false, the conjunction itself is false. How about row 2?
False.
Row 3?
That's also false.
And row 4?
True.
Beautiful. All right. So, right, now that we've built our values, we don't need our constituents anymore. And look, we've got truth functionally equivalent sentences again. These are what are known as De Morgan's equivalences. I'm trying to find a place to write that that isn't. Here, I'll do this. Oh, I meant I was erasing. So Augustus De Morgan. De Morgan's equivalences. Augustus De Morgan came up with these equivalences. So if you ever see DM, it's an abbreviation for De Morgan's law, or De Morgan's is just De Morgan's equivalences. So notice what we've done. So let's take a break here to just recap. We understand that any sentence that has a truth value, any sentence that's either true or false, is a sentence that's that's a candidate for an argument. We notate that sentence using, capital letters A through Z. If that sentence appears in multiple places in an argument, we use the same letter for each iteration. We can compound sentences by way of at least one simple sentence and at least one connective. The three connectives that we know about thus far are negation, conjunction, and disjunction. The negation is symbolized with the tilde. The negation always appears to the immediate left of whatever sentence it's negating. That's why if you want to negate the sentence as a whole, whereby what I mean by that is if you want to negate an already compounded sentence, that's why you've got the parentheses, as Julianne pointed out earlier, right? So you've got negation. The negation can appear in front of an atomic, a simple sentence, or it can appear in front of a parenthetical. Conjunction is symbolized with the ampersand. It always goes in between sentences. It's like the white stuff in an Oreo cookie, right? So is the disjunction, right? It's the meat or the peanut butter and jelly in the sandwich. And then the sentences on either side of conjunction or disjunction are the bread, the pieces of bread, right? And your disjunction is translated with the lowercase v. And then we saw how each of these operators is defined. So we understand the meaning of the negation. Negation operates on a given sentence, but we don't know the truth value of a negated sentence if we don't know the truth value of the original sentence, right? So the constituents of the compound sentence are crucial to determining the truth value of the sentence as a whole. That is, the negation sentence, the conjunction sentence, the disjunction sentence. And then we've seen this week, for example, specifically, we looked at some equivalences. We can also talk about, again, which we did talk a bit last week, sentences that are always true. Those are tautologies, or truth functionally true sentences. We can also talk about self-contradictory sentences. That is, sentences that are always false. Okay. So before we break off, and I also want to know if you have questions, problems, confusions. Okay, so let me do this. I'm going to generate another whiteboard. And I'm going to ask us to just, remind ourselves of what we've got. So we have simple sentences. We have compound sentence. We have connectives. So we have negation and operators I'll put in parentheses. Conjunction, disjunction. Oh yeah, I remember last week, for the life of me, I could not use my trackpad to write a conjunction, to write the ampersand, I should say. Right? We know the truth definitions. Sorry, before that I should have put, we know how to translate from ordinary English into symbolic logic notation. And we know, and we know how to determine possible truth values And we know how to, in so doing, we understand tautologically equivalent sentences. And a tautologically equivalent sentence, tautologically equivalent sentences, as we know, are sentences that have identical truth values on every row of the truth table in the column under the operator or main operator. So if you have a sentence with just one operator, there's no reason to call it a main operator because there's just the one. But if you have multiple sentences, you want to look at the column under the main operator. I think I just said multiple sentences. If you have multiple operators, one of them and one alone is what drives it, right? How are we doing? Does this, so summing up here, are we pretty good so far?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's do a little bit of, question for you. Do you want to review the idea of truth functionally true, aka a tautology, and truth functionally false, aka self-contradictory sentences? Should we do that before we move on? So, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sure, we can.
So recall that a tautology is a sentence that is always true. That is, it is true in the column, it is true on every row in the column under the main connective. So I think we worked last week something like this.
Is that the same as saying it's always logically true?
Yeah, it's always logically true. Yeah, so to say that you have a logical truth is just a broader concept. It includes tautology. So if you have a truth functionally true or a tautological sentence, it's also a logically true sentence. Yeah, thank you, Hannah. Right, so here we've got the sentence, look, either it's not P or it's P, or you could say either it's P or it's not P. It doesn't matter what the order is. And you know that you've got one simple sentence, right? So that means you have two rows. And we know that the negation covers only the first iteration of P. You know, and once we're done determining our values for the first sentence, we can cross out the constituents. And then we know that since, you know what? When I mess up, you're supposed to correct me. Do you like that rule? When I mess up, it's your fault for not correcting me?
That sounds right.
Yeah, totally, right? Thanks. So what did I do? What did I mess up on?
If it's not false, it should be.
Yeah. In grad school, I TA'd for this awesome professor. His name was Dr. Costa, and he was such a machine. He was just like boom, boom, boom. And I used to call him the Costinator, which I thought was really funny. He didn't laugh because as a machine, he doesn't have a sense of humor. So, but I remember, you know, he was in this big, huge lecture hall, and he's running through like a 36 row truth table, and he's chug, 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 chug. And he's, you know, those were the days when you'd have the overhead where you'd write on a clear piece of plastic and it would project onto the screen. So he's going down, he's like, T, da, 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 da. And he made a mistake, right? He said true, but he wrote false. He said T, but he wrote an F. And like the ripples in the class are like going, oh, Costa, yeah. But you know, he's a machine. He's not going to stop.
Professor, where did you go?
For grad school, I was in South Carolina. I went to the University of South Carolina. Why did I go there? Where you like, South Carolina, why would you go there? Well, I can answer that question. Actually, they're lovely people. There's been a lot of turnover in the department since my day. But at the time they had a really, I'm not saying they don't now. It's just I'm not up with they're much bigger in philosophy of science now and technology. But at the time they had this wonderful faculty and in like across the history of philosophy, and that's what I wanted to do. So that's where I went. But yeah, Costa was just, he was awesome. But so, he just, but he didn't listen. But so when I make a mistake, you have to correct me. All right. So is it clear? Does it make sense to say, look, the fact is that at line 1, we've got a T, right? So the disjunction is true. And at line 2, we have a T, so the disjunction is true. And that means then that this sentence is a tautology. There's no world in which this sentence could be false. We were talking about this a little bit last week. I think it was Cameron who was talking about it in terms of necessary truths. And I apologize, Abdul, what are you thinking?
Oh no, I was just saying that's true.
Yeah. So let's think about what we're saying when we're talking about no possible, and I'm using the language of world, but so no possible logical universe, right? Where the sentence can be false. So think of your rows of a truth table as possible scenarios. And when you exhaust the number of rows, you've exhausted the number of scenarios. So before we get to that point, let me just throw out a logically false sentence or a self-contradiction or self-contradictory sentence. So we could say P and not P, right? It is and it isn't. And you'll say, well, you can't have that, right? Again, we think about our values. We've got one simple sentence, so we've got 2 rows. And we know that the negation covers just the second iteration of P. And so that means that the conjunction is the main connective because it pulls the 2 elements together. So, right? So we've got this sentence, and then the conjunction brings them both together. All right, so we know that not true is false, not false is true. And then once we've, actually, let me do this. Once we've dealt with those values, we're done with them. And now we work on the main operator. So the first P is true, but the negation is false. So the sentence is false. And since the first P is false in line 2 or in row 2, the sentence is false, right? So this sentence can never be true. And then lastly, just so that we think about how many rows we might generate. And let me go slowly because almost invariably I mess up the formula. I don't know why, but I do. Okay, so how do we determine the number of rows or lines in a truth table? We count the number of simple sentences in the compound sentence and I don't know if my language is it's at the very least, it's not elegant. I don't think it's inaccurate to say that you multiply by the exponent, but we count the number of simple sentences in the compound sentence and then increase that by the exponent, if that makes sense, right? So, sorry, let me rephrase that. In fact, I'll have to edit this because that doesn't sound right. That is the exponent. Multiply it as an exponent by 2. So the formula is this. The number of rows is 2 to the number of simple sentences. So, see, this is why my handwriting is just not to be made public. It's awful. So let's do the following. I've created the maximum number of whiteboards. Are you kidding me? How can they deny me? I'm getting a note saying that I've created the maximum number of whiteboards. That's poopy. All right, well, I'm going to do some erasing. Oh, wait, hold on. I actually think that I have another one in here somewhere that I didn't use. Yeah, here it is. I'm super excited. Here it is. Okay, so 2 to the number of atomic sentences. So here, let's take an example. Suppose that I have the following sentence. It's A and B, or it's C. So we have 3 atomic sentences, right? We have 1, 2, 3 atomic sentences. So the number of rows is going to be 2 to the power of 3. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
where's my, yeah, okay. So, sorry. I went away. I'm back. All right, so how do we generate the possible permutations? It goes like this. If we know that we have 8 rows, right, we're going to take, so let me do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The first sentence when we read left to right, right? So I know that, in some languages are read right to left, but we're going to follow left to right. So the first sentence on the left is going to take half values of true. So 1, 2, 3, 4 true, and then half of false. 5, 6, 7, 8. The second a simple sentence to the left is going to take half of the 4, and you'll get, in this case, therefore, 2 true and 2 false. and then repeat 2 true and 2 false. And then, in fact, it doesn't matter how many atomic or simple sentences that you have, your last sentence, the rightmost sentence, is going to take alternating true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. So we've got true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. Why? Well, I don't mean to sound snotty when I say this, but this is just the convention that's used, irrespective of where. So, it's kind of like saying, look, if we all look at the same thing, then we'll know what we're looking at. If we look at it, well, let me rephrase that. If we look at it the same way, because it's laid out the same, we'll know what we're looking at. So now you've got these 8 rows, and now you're in a position, once you've determined which of the connectives is the main connective, you're in a position to start generating values. So which is the main connective? Is it the conjunction or the disjunction, and why?
The disjunction?
Yeah, and why, Abdul? You're exactly right.
Well, it's connecting a complex sentence with a simple sentence.
Exactly. The parenthetical, I mean, here, this is going to sound snotty, and I don't mean it to sound this way. I mean, whatever's in the parenthetical can't be the main connective, right? Because you're saying, hey, this is a unit. But you're exactly right that the disjunction is saying all this junk over here is one side of me, and all this junk over, or this singular junk over here is the other side of me. So what we do is we work the conjunction values first, and then the disjunction values second. So chug, 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 chug. How do we work it? A conjunction is true when and only when each of the conjuncts is
True.
true. So tell me what to write. Oh, and
True.
sorry, hold on just a second. I realized I didn't make that false clear. Sorry. Is that you? Yeah, Abdul, go for it.
True, true, false, 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 false.
Yeah, beautiful. And then we're done with these guys, so we just get rid of them. Now we move on to the disjunction. So what are we doing? We're looking at the values of C in relation to the values of the conjunction values according to the way the disjunction operates. So what do we know about the disjunction? The disjunction is true when at least one of the disjuncts is
True.
beautiful. All right, so what are we going to write?
True, 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 false.
Oh, hold on just a second. You said true, 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 false. Yeah, sorry. Okay, go.
True, false, true, false.
Good. So now, assuming that I haven't written anything wrong, we've got our possible values for this sentence. And this means that we've exhausted the possible permutations, right? There's no other way that this sentence could come out true and false, right? So I think we were talking about this last week. We were talking about contingently true sentences. A sentence is contingently true when at least one of the rows on the truth table is true. It's a tautology when they all are. Right? So we've got several rows that are true and several that are false. You can think of these rows as the circumstances or the conditions under which the sentence comes out true. The circumstances or conditions under which the sentence comes out false. What do you think? How are we doing?
Before we go any further,
Yeah.
I can ask this question.
Of course.
How can you explain how you got 8 values again? You lost me over there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what we're doing is increasing the number of rows exponentially when we increase the number of simple sentences. So when we have one simple sentence, we have 2 rows. When we have 2 simple sentences, we have 4 rows. When we have 3 simple sentences, we have 8 rows. And we increase exponentially. Of course. And it doesn't matter how many times I do this. I tend to flip like my exponent with the base, and it's like, oh no, that's not right. So if you're comfortable with the formula, great, you're good to go. Just know that you're increasing exponentially, right? And the exponent is the number of atomic or simple sentences. And then also remember that you're following the following convention. The first sentence to the left always gets half true, half false, however many rows there are. The second sentence to the left takes half of the first set of true values, and that gets half true, half false, and so forth. And then by the time you get to the very last sentence, the rightmost sentence, it's always going to alternate true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. So I recognize that we've spent a fair amount of time, on the mechanics of stuff. But as we move forward, I think what we'll start to see is some of the benefits, if you will, of thinking about thinking about the power of a truth table, but also how a truth table is restricted, right? So a truth table only works when you've got operators, right? It's not going to work with non-functional, I don't want to even call them connectives, with non-functional symbols. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I think that just working on the mechanics and of translations, the mechanics of the connectives, the truth definitions, the construction of and completion of truth tables, that's a lot to do, and you just want to keep practicing with it. And then we'll work really hard next week on ways that we can see the power of the truth table. Okay. What are you thinking? Any questions, problems, confusions that you would like to go over before we skedaddle? Because I've been working you hard all afternoon and into the evening with nary a break. See? Even Walter is just, he's overwhelmed.
Yeah, he's leaving.
I was hoping he would sneeze for you because, oh my gosh, I've never seen a puppy that has a cuter sneeze. I'm hoping I can catch it on video one day. Anyway, what he does with his face is just very funny. Okay, so thoughts. And you might say, no, I need to think about this, or no, I need to walk away because I don't like this right now, or something else. But if that's the case, if you don't have anything that you want to talk about now, remember, I'm around. Don't be shy. Just because we meet formally once a week doesn't mean we can't meet during office hours, outside of office hours. Okay? I'm around. I'm here to help.
The best way to reach you is Pronto or email?
So I want to learn how to use Pronto better. I haven't. So yeah, I mean, I check email multiple times a day. I'm also so if you can't make if you can make an office hour, if it's easy for you, just drop in, right? I'm just sitting there. If I'm meeting with somebody, then we'll, finish up and then you and I can chat. Pronto, I need to, I've used it a couple times, but I'm still not, I haven't actually figured out how it works. If I'm logged in, I seem to be logged in for one class, not for all of them. So maybe I need to log in just during office. I don't know.
Okay, so the office hours, it has its own Zoom link?
Yeah. Since we're already, here, let me stop the share. And then, hold on. Okay. So you can see our links. Actually, let me make this view so you don't see links that you don't want to use. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you just click this link. Tuesday, Thursday, click this link. But again, if those hours don't work for your schedule, then you just let me know and we'll figure out another time to meet. Because it's not like I'm not around. I'm around, and I'm mindful of the fact that my office hours, aren't going to work for everybody. So I need to make sure I'm available to you at other times.
Okay, so I just email you if I'm not available for those times?
Yeah. I mean, try pronto. It can't hurt. I don't know what will happen.
I'll try both because I need to speak with you because I think I joined the class late, so there are some confusions that I have. On the book, how many chapters should we be through by now?
So we are. Chapter 8, chapters 6 and 9 are optional, although you will see that material on quizzes, but I'll end up just counting that as extra credit. We're covering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8 thus far, or we've covered those thus far.
Section 1 through 9, but 6 and 9 are optional, you said?
Correct. Yeah. So obviously, if there's anything that you want to chat about, let me know. It might be that we can handle it in a way that's efficient for you, so that you don't feel like you're sort of overwhelmed with stuff to do.
No, I totally get the lectures and everything. I'm just trying to match that with the book that the activities that I'm trying to do online.
Oh, okay. So if we go, hold on just a sec. So I was running around, so bear with me. So I don't know.
I've gotten through chapter so far. This is really bad, but I finished section 3. I'm moving on to 4, 5,
Oh,
9.
it's not bad at all, Abdul. It's not bad at all. You're in perfectly good shape. So what I was thinking was this: if you find, let's see, how should I? So I don't know which is better for you folks. If you say, hey, I'm going to wait and see what Mia focuses on in class, and then I'm going to go, read through the sections, the relevant sections of thus and such chapter. Or if you say, I'm going to just, do the whole thing. You are not too far behind by any stretch.
Oh yeah, I kind of get messed up, so I have to do all of them.
Okay. I'm like that too. So for my money, the material in chapter 1 is really important. From chapter 2, I think not that weird cases of validity are not interesting and important. They are, but in terms of the meat of what we've been talking about, necessity versus contingency is important. We didn't chat much about augmentation, but it actually is quite useful in helping us understand what it means for an argument to be valid. And then I would say all 6 sections are really helpful. Reading with purpose, I didn't really cover that. That's more for your own benefit.
Yeah, I actually struggled. Reading with purpose and unstated assumptions it didn't make any sense to me. I got every single exercise wrong. But I'm going to go, I don't want to hold up anybody here, so I'm going to go and read it again.
Oh, no, you're not. I mean, unless other people have questions, problems, confusions, there's nothing else I'm dying to talk about. So here's my advice in that case. Don't worry about section 3 or chapter 3, section 5. It wouldn't be a bad idea at some point for you and I to chat about unstated assumptions. It's not essential to the work that we're doing right now, but it can be useful in general, and it will also be I think it'll come into play when we talk about, for example, necessarily true sentences and how we prove those. Yeah. So my advice to you then is, it sounds from what you're saying, from what I've heard you say today, you're doing beautifully with the Boolean stuff. My advice is, just make sure you're comfortable with the chapter 1 stuff.
Yeah, I got
Good.
perfectly. What we did today was chapter 6, right? Which one was that?
We did. Yeah, pretty much. Like we did a big review. We basically went
I'm
back.
saying the truth table and
Yeah, that's we did 4, 5, basically 4, 5, and
okay,
6.
so I haven't gotten there yet, so this helps a lot.
Yeah. And then let's see. We also did, now the one thing we haven't done, and we'll need to pick this up next week, is using a truth table to determine an argument's validity. And so I'll just drop a note to folks about that, but we're gonna be just fine, and we'll work more next week on some equivalences.
And I was worried about some of the deadlines on the assignments, or the quiz. Are those the actual deadlines, or because it's closed now, I can't access them at all.
Right, but I think so I have a memory, but maybe I'm wrong, that you were going to tell me when you were ready to write the exam, and I would go ahead and just open it for you.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
that was me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But it was me too.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, so for the quiz, so here's what I think, Abdul, I don't know if this will work for you. Did you work the first quiz?
No.
Okay. So my advice is that we do this. I open the quiz. As you know, I think you know, the quizzes you can complete an unlimited number of times. But then once the quiz closes, then you can get feedback. So you don't get any feedback until the thing closes. So I'll open it up for you for a certain window. If you tell me, I'm ready and I want to work it, over the next X number of days. And then once it closes, then you can see all the feedback. Then you're in a good position to work the exam.
Okay.
There's one exercise in the exam that I shouldn't have included. And so if you struggle with it, don't worry, I'm going to give those points back, but it's just easier to leave it in the exam right now than to pull it.
Okay, that's perfect. I want to catch up on the book first and then email you to open the quiz. So.
Sure. And if you want to say, hey, let's chat before I undertake the quiz, that's great. We can chat and then make sure that you're comfortable with everything before moving on to the quiz.
Okay, just to double check, chapter 6 and 9 were optional, right?
Yes. But like I said, the eventually those will, I think they feature in quizzes and exams, but I count those as extra credit.
All right.
Okay. But as far as but think of your quizzes as basically a chance for you to do lots of practice with the material, and you get points for it. It's kind of low stakes in that sense.
No, that sounds great.
Okay. Yeah, so you'll let me know. And so Berman, am I right that so you're gonna let me know too, how you're doing?
I did the first quiz already.
How'd that go?
The fill in the blanks were the only ones that kind of confused me, because I didn't know what to put in there, but when I saw the correct answer, it was logic and symbolic logic, and I was like, oh, I did okay on the first one, but I did a lot better on the second.
Oh, okay, good. And then, so I apologize, Daniel, H. I'm just seeing your question now. Yeah, so there's one exercise that's a multi-part, and it's worth 8 points. And that one I shouldn't have included. I didn't realize that some of the parts were from another, or like from chapter, I don't know what. I think it would be like 4 or 5 or something. Anyway, point is that I'll give those points back. I haven't done it yet. And then yeah, there are 2 exercises where I I flipped the answers accidentally. I was driving one class member crazy. I feel terribly about it. Where the one was valid, but I had said it was invalid, and the other was invalid, or whatever. I said the opposite, right? So I fixed that. But please check to make sure that, everything looks right to you. Anything else that you want to chat about? Okay, so I'm around. Don't be shy about connecting with me. Otherwise, I will see you next week.
Thank you,
All
Professor.
right. Thank you all so much. I appreciate your diligence. It's a pleasure working with you. I'll see you soon.
Have a good night.
Thanks. Have a good night. Bye.